Alright everybody, try and buckle in, get comfy. You can tell we're about to have a little chit chat moment here. Story time, tea, a little Tinder swindler, army engagement. I don't want to give away all of the details, but that's enough to keep you in, hopefully. I'm here to talk about my engagement story, my engagement experience. I've definitely mentioned it on my channel, but I've never gone into depth on what it was, what happened, like the aftermath, and how I'm still talking about it right now. So that's kind of what this video is gonna be, and I'm honestly just really excited to share this piece of my life finally with the world and just be like honest and transparent and vulnerable, because I'm definitely not proud of like everything I've chosen through that process and like how I ended up getting engaged in the first place, but you live and you learn. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Also, I'm gonna apologize in advance, my throat is a little I got my water bottle here, but I went a little hard on St. Patrick's Day, the real day, not the Green River Day, but the real day. So my voice is a little coming back to life slowly, but girls gotta get shit done. So here we are. Cozy up. I want the vibes to be like we're hanging out and I'm about to spill the drama to you. You know, the drama's from like 2 years ago, but we're coming around to it. We're coming around to it. We're finally healed, so let's chit chat about it. Flashback. I am 21 years old. Holy fuck. When that just like sits in. Anyway, I'm 21 years old and it's March of 2020. And I go on a date with a boy I meet on a dating app, like everybody does this day and age. And I feel like things were going okay, you could say, right? Like he seemed very gentleman. Our first date, we went out for like coffee and he was super cute, very charismatic. Definitely knew how to like compliment me without being like super objectifying and gross. So that was like something that definitely, you know, drew my attention. In hindsight, obviously, mostly he just knew what he was doing. But then fast forward, he was part of the army. I learned very quickly, and the reason that I met him was actually because he was on leave in Minnesota, or not on leave, he was like in between orders or whatever. So he had just been in South Korea and he was in Minnesota in transition between their next orders, which was like for North Carolina. So I think he had like 2 or 3 months, I don't really know. I met him early March, like I said, and things progressed very quickly. And we spent a lot of time together very quickly. Like he was basically staying at my apartment for like a week at a time. And once I got laid off from my job during the pandemic, he was there the whole time. And when that happened, it was also like, okay, well, we've been talking, so like now what are we gonna do? The world's like fucking shutting down. You're about to drive across the country. We've been hanging out for the past like 3-4 weeks. Like, what are we doing? So we're like, in my head, right, my perspective was I'd been single for over 2 years at that point, and my whole philosophy at dating was like, well, when the opportunity presents itself, like I'll take it, I'll be ready. Yeah, it didn't really work out, obviously, so here we are. Anyways, in that moment though, I'm like, here's the opportunity, let me take it. So I'm like, let's do this, let's like be together. So we're together and things go so fast that like in that moment, I literally call my mom and tell her. And then after that, we like go to the mall, we go to Build-A-Bear Workshop, we like get little bears for each other because we knew we were gonna be a long distance for a minute. Just because, you know, love bombing, didn't know what that was, now we know. So it all just goes down really fast. And then little do I know, I'm driving home to just basically live with my parents while the world's shut down and he's going to North Carolina because the government says so. So that's like the first month. I don't know how quickly it was. I feel like it was shortly thereafter, but when we were talking long term and being together. I was in my last year of college, so I was going to graduate that fall. And the plan was that we were going to, like, I would move down there to be closer to him since I had the capability to move and he did not. But he was very pressing on marriage and how it was going to make our lives so much easier and so much more convenient and yada yada yada, this, that, and the other thing. I had no prior knowledge on the army, the military, the benefits that come with being married in the military. So it was all very new to me when I found out the hard way, because I just like grew up never believing in marriage really. And so with this whole like logistics side of it, I was like, okay, I guess I get it. But then it became this thing of like, I'm talking to my parents about it and they're like, well, do you really want to just like sign some paperwork, or do you want to like actually have something? Like, do you care? Do you want anything to look back on? And then it was like, well, I probably want something to look back on. So there were all these things that were coming up, and I don't know. I just told them that I was like very on edge about it. So much so that I remember it got to the point that before we had planned a trip to meet up in July of 2020, yes, the middle of the fucking pandemic, he like told me straight to my face on FaceTime that he's like, don't bring it up unless you actually mean it. Like, I don't want to talk about it unless you actually mean it. And I was like, shit, okay, like, heard. So that to me was like, he just wants me to ask him, or like have that be like when I'm saying yes is the next time we're gonna have that conversation. So when we planned this trip for me to go to visit him in North Carolina in July, I assume that's when like it's all gonna go down, and big shocker, it does. So basically it's just like, hey, I got you a ring, okay, like let's get you a ring, sick. Now we're engaged, let's like plan a wedding so we can get married before the end of the year when you graduate college. And I was like, damn, okay, sure, this is really fast, but like let's do it. So my family like books an Airbnb, I'm putting a deposit down for a photographer, I bought a dress, like aww. All of these things had happened over a course of like 5 months maybe. In total it was like 8. So you can do the math for me. But basically that was July. And then it was a week that we spent together in North Carolina, which, bless y'all's heart, because it's so fucking hot there. I don't know how you live there. After that, I flew back home, and like, I feel like vibes were definitely different. I do know the change was that he had got news that he was going to go to this place called the NTC, or the National Training Center, just like basically fake desert war in California that they send all these people to before they actually send them to real war. And he would be like no contact for a month, and so this was going to be our first like no contact period. And I mostly just remember being like on edge about it, but whatever. I don't know, I had really bad vibes. Like my gut was just giving me bad vibes, like something was off. I knew something was off. And I remember even pressing him a little bit, I feel like before he left, that I just was like, something ain't adding up. And then I went on Facebook. Literally, I don't know, universe took over. I was like, Brandon, into Facebook. And what shows up is like all of the engagements before me that existed, which was one from South Korea, which was one from high school. And he had told me a little bit about the high school one, so I could give him at least a little bit of credit to that one. But the South Korea one, I had no idea. He had never mentioned it to me before, and I was like, what the fuck? I was pissed. I was livid. Also, I forgot before all of this. This is so fucked up. Okay. So before NTC, though, I need to go back. So before he goes to NTC, it's my birthday. It's August. And he straight up ghosts me on my birthday. I need to include this voice memo because...
Hi, it's me, your fiance, on her birthday. Just wanting to talk to her fiance at 9:30 at night. Didn't realize that was, again, a lot to ask for, but here I am. Hope you're doing well.
This was also just like such a low point for me, right? Like, this was a boundary I had set for myself and I just did not hold true. Like, the universe was looking out for me. It was like, girl, Here's your chance. Here's your golden ticket out of here. He's fucked you over on your birthday. This is the one boundary you have set. Leave his ass. Did I? I had all his shit in a pile in my room. And he still somehow talked my ear back into his fuck. I don't know. Just dumb, idiot brain, not working. My birthday flies. I don't know how the fuck that happened. Maybe that's why the vibes were off at NTC. Anyways, he goes to this NTC place. I find out about the engagements in Korea and the high school one, and that it was way more serious than he maybe alluded to. It was just like so intense, so fast. Like everything was just so intense, so much, all at one time. That's all I remember, just like through that whole time period. I was like, holy fuck. I also didn't tell him that I knew about the engagements right away. I like kept that to myself for a while until we had like actual communication that was going to be more than just a couple messages, because it was so spotty with communication. We were going like days in between talking, so I didn't really want to like be like, hey, I just found out like you lied to me seriously about some serious shit. Because layers to this, right? The other layer was that like something else that wasn't adding up to me was that he wasn't telling his family that we were engaged. And I was obviously telling my family and friends because I was excited, and he just wasn't sharing with anybody. But come to find out, if you have like, you know, multiple engagements, you might not want to share with everybody that you got another one. So then let's see here. From NTC, we have that conversation. Basically, there's no trust. It's just constant fighting. And I'm assuming that before he went to NTC is when he started using dating apps or was talking to other people online. I don't really know his main methods of reaching out to people, but that's what I believe was happening. And anyways, things end up ending, and I was super upset. And I feel like it was mostly just because I was like craving this like fantasy of like, I don't know, a life partner and like someone to like plan with and experience shit with and like share life with and like do shit with, and I don't know, just like, right, I don't know, Fantasyland. I was in it and wanted it, but obviously not with him. It would have been the worst fucking fantasy ever. So I feel very blessed that I didn't have to experience that, but it was still so incredibly painful because I think it was like a couple days later, I saw on Instagram that he was seeing another girl, and they were like very much coupley posting, like they were together, boyfriend, girlfriend. And I decided to send my first like, hey girly message. I said, hey girly, here's everything. That's what I showed her. Just like screenshots of everything, like screenshots of the Facebook messages, screenshots of texts from him. There was this TikTok video that she had posted that had a piece of art, you could call it, I guess. It just said don't give up on it, because he told me about how depressed he was. And so I thought it was so sweet to send a care package that had like, you know, affirmations on it that he'd like hang up. So like, but anyways, that's still on his wall while she's posting shit about him, and like just their overlap was like insane. And I'm like, hey, like not only is there overlap here, obviously, but there's other people before me. Like this is a repeat cycle he has, so like just know. She didn't really want to hear it, which I can't say if I was in her shoes I would have done anything differently, so it's like water under the bridge at this point. But beef online for a while, like beef online between each other, and it's like whatever, I guess. They end up getting married like 2 months later. They get married in January of 2021 at that point, which like, whoa, that's crazy. And after that I really stopped like following it and really trying to care. I really just tried to separate myself and move on and let go and try and like process how I was gonna move on from that and like trust anybody ever again and like feel like a person ever again, because I just felt like I was so not only misled but just like betrayed on like one of the deepest levels, because to me it was so real. Like the vulnerability I was giving was real, the feelings I had were real, like it was just so intense for me, and obviously it was not the same for him, considering he could just go through them like a Rolodex. So yeah, that was really tough. is like primarily I would say when I lost a lot of weight. And I feel like that's also something that I just like have never addressed, is just that I've lost a lot of weight. I just want to say that, yeah, if you go through a traumatic breakup, sometimes you lose your appetite, or sometimes your anxiety and stress is so bad that you're literally like just shitting because you're so stressed. Like, that's just what happened. And I think that being honest about that is going to be part of this video, because why the fuck not? So yeah, I was literally stress shitting so bad, and it just was one of the darkest times of my life. I don't know. Everyone goes through dark seasons for sure, but this was the dark one for me. And after I felt like I had moved on, it was like, I moved to Chicago now and was like living my life. And then next thing I knew, I got some DMs, and one of them is from a burner account that's like, "Hey, you were right. I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you." And the other one is like, "Hey, do you know Brandon and anything about him?" And I was basically like, "What the fuck is going on?" If I had to guess, he's doubling it up and giving it to the next one. Basically, it put me in connection with the person that he had married, Hillary, and they were like way more willing to have a conversation with me about it, and we actually have become way more close and have kept in contact. So I get to include a little conversation in her side of kind of what went down with her and Brandon and just everything, and kind of how it's led us to be connected now. And
All right. Thanks so much for doing this with me. I'm so glad we can record something and connect. Obviously this is weird circumstances, but I feel like we've obviously talked a couple times since all of this has shaken out, but I kind of want to include a little blip of your side, your perspective. I have some like follow-up questions that maybe we haven't talked about. So ask you some of those, but I don't know if you have, I just showed you the video, so I don't know if you have any initial reactions of like where you pick up in that story, or kind of any initial reactions you want to say.
Yeah. So one, I think that that was like a very tactful way to go about telling the absolute shit show that it's been. But no, like I the second that it was like, yeah, we'd broken up, I was like, oh no, I know for a fact before they broke up, we were definitely still talking. And like I didn't know that until after the fact, like until you had sent me like screenshots in that like hey girly messages you put it. Um where I was like, we were talking during that conversation or we were talking when that was sent. So yeah, that was like a moment for me.
No, the receipts are insane to me. Like I feel like that was like when we connected, that was like the biggest eye opener to me. Was I knew there was overlap, but I don't feel like I understood like how much overlap there was. Like it actually was disturbing to me. Like it was re-triggering in a way of like, oh, this was already a fucked up situation, but now it's like even more fucked up than I thought it was originally.
Right. No, I'm like an active user on TikTok, as you know, and that whole song where it's like when you told me the whole story, I felt like throwing up. I was like, no, dude. Like the second that me and him ended, and I connected with you again, and was like going through it all, I was like, oh, I'm sick all over again.
It is. And like, yeah, I don't know, even making this video, like going through it, thinking about it, reading old messages and shit, I was just like, oh my God, this was my fucking life. I don't believe this. Wrong girl, not me. Different person. I swear to God. I was not there. I don't know how I made it through, but we did. So shout out us.
I feel like we've talked about this before. It was just like I feel like that whole like at least my whole time with him was just like a fever dream.
No, for real. It was. It just like I said, even in the video, it's like so intense, so fast. Like it was just like that. I feel like he just never gave, like, I don't know if victim's the right word, but just people he was with, he never gives them that like second to even question it. It's just he's always got something to fill it with or come up with or just like say love bomby shit.
He's so good with his words. Like he is a very articulate person, almost to the point where like you're like, was that manipulation or was that genuine? Like I don't know where the manipulation started, where it ended, where like he was being genuine, where he wasn't. And like for me, one of the biggest not like issues, but like issues that we had toward like in the beginning of our relationship was like I had a pretty messed up relationship a couple of years like prior to him. And then I had another not as messed up relationship, but pretty gross afterwards. Um, right before Brandon, like I want to say 6, 7 months before him. So I flat out told him, I was like, look, not me, wrong bitch. Like you try pulling this shit, like I will do exactly to you what I did to my ex. I will pack up your shit and I will kick you the fuck out. Like I don't play this shit. Like I do not play these games. Um and so yeah, dude, I don't know. That was like the biggest thing is because like when I would tell him things like that, when I'd be like, yo, homie, like this is not cool, he'd be like, he'd give me like the most beautiful, like well articulated fucking roundabout way to like calm my nerves, but like not actually answer any of my questions.
Yeah, no, for real. Like, I think too, even looking back on this, like connecting the dots still to this day was like that message that he sent me after NTC when I had brought up that I had found the engagement pictures. And he's like, oh, like that actually, they were just the worst. Like, pretty much just telling me everything he needed to discredit, disregard that person or whatever. And I'm sure, again, one of the questions I have is what was said to kind of like discourage you believing me and things like that. But we'll get there. First things first, I want to know what was the initial reaction, if you can remember, damn near 3 years ago, what your reaction was when you first got those DMs from me about me being in a relationship with Brandon just a couple weeks before you guys were together.
I believed you at first. I wholeheartedly did. I was like, oh fuck. And I called him like immediately after mine, like me and you ended that conversation. I called him and I was like, yo, you need to fucking explain this shit to me right now because I got questions. Wrong bit. I was like shaking. I was so mad that I was shaking. And I was like, because if this is the case, like we're done. Like I'm over it. You can come pick your stuff up from my house. Like I'm not doing this. And he gave me a very beautifully put like yeah, the same thing that most narcissistic people or people with narcissistic tendencies do of like, oh, like she cheated on me and I think she's just trying to like ruin my next relationship and blah 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 blah. Like, being very like not victimy, but victimy. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't like full on being like, oh, pity me, woe is me. But it was like a very like factual thing of like, oh, she did this, she did this. This was my experience with her. Like she's just trying to ruin my happiness. And after like, I want to say it was maybe an hour-long conversation with him on the phone, I was like, okay, well, like maybe you're right. Cause like I have had instances like I've got a 16-year-old brother and I have a lot of male friends and I know like women can be evil too sometimes. Like women can be gross too. So I was like, okay, well maybe this genuinely is just a situation where like she's crazy. Like I hate to put
Yeah.
it that way. Like maybe it is just like that. But yeah, no, my initial reaction was like, holy shit, I gotta get this man shit out of my house.
Hell yeah. And honestly though, like again, that like gut feeling, like I feel like I had that and I just did not listen one damn time. And I truly wish I would have saved me some pain. But do you remember when you and Brandon started communication or how it began? Like was it on a dating app? Did he slide in the DMs? Like I don't even know how you guys met.
Yeah, so I don't remember the exact date, but I know it was like, I don't know, the third week into October of 2020 or something like that. Um, and I was on Bumble because I had just moved back home to North Carolina from Los Angeles. And I was just like, not necessarily to like meet anybody, but like, I don't know, fucking use it as like a mood boost, you know what I mean? Like, see who matches with
Yeah.
me. And I came across his profile on Bumble and I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. And like he had some pictures of him like in Korea. And one thing about me is like I'm a huge, huge, huge lover of Asian culture. Like I love everything about it. And so as soon as that happened, I messaged him because on Bumble, like you have to message first being the girl. And I was like, hey, found your profile really interesting. Like, you're kind of cute, blah, blah, blah. And then he had messaged back almost immediately, basically being like, oh, like you're pretty cute too. Like I noticed you do crystal healings and like tarot cards. He's like, I've been so interested in learning all about that kind of stuff. Like, do you think that you could, right?
Meanwhile, the bitch is getting readings from me every morning. What a
I'm like,
bitch.
I'm teaching you. I was like, have you ever used tarot cards before? Like, do you have any crystals? And he's like, I've never used tarot cards before. I've never been around them.
Interesting.
And I have a couple of crystals, but like I don't really know what they are, like what they do. They were just like given to me. And
The Three of Swords is calling right now.
I'm assuming that you were probably the one who gave him those crystals.
I don't
Um,
want him back.
and so I don't remember if it was the next night or the night after the next night that we ended up going and like grabbing drinks and food or whatever and just talking. Um, but we ended up like going and getting food at this place called Max. Um, I had like a glass of wine, he had a beer, like we shared like a plate of nachos because like at Max they have like that like the cookie sheets.
Mm-hmm.
They like make a whole nacho tray out of like these huge.
Ooh.
And we talked about like music, we talked about shows, we talked about fucking crystals, like whatever. And then he was like, "Oh, I'm not really ready for the night to end." And I didn't have a car at this point. So like I was depending on like Uber or like my mom picking me up or you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you're not ready to like end the night, like we don't have to end the night, but like, I don't exactly have like a car, like whatever. And he's like, "Oh no, it's fine. Like we can just sit in my car and listen to music." And I was like, "Okay." So then we proceeded to sit in his car in the Max parking lot for like 4 hours, going just like sharing music and like talking about life and like dreams and aspirations and shit like that. And I like totally just started fucking babbling on that I completely forgot what your question.
It was just how and when you guys met and if it was on a dating app or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
so that's the how and the when.
but no, for real, I even think like I'm trying to think back to like our first date, like it went a long time. Like you definitely like it's from the jump. It's from the fucking jump that he's like, I'm about to rope you in right now. Like he knows. It's so fucking insane to me. So yeah, I guess we kind of talked about this a little bit, but when did Brandon bring up having an ex engagement? Like, did he bring up having prior engagements at all, period? Because obviously there was more than just me before me.
I knew nothing about his engagement to you until you reached out to me.
Mm.
And I knew nothing about the girls before until you told me that.
See, and I'm just like, I can't fathom, like, I'm almost 25 now. I can't fathom having almost 5, 6 engagements, one marriage by 25. Like, that to me is still perplexing. I still can't wrap my head around that. I don't understand how he's capable of that. Or anybody. I know he
Right.
can't be the only one. Anyways, I only got a couple questions. But oh, okay. How long was it then until you were made aware of the other relationships? Was it before you guys were married? Was it, or I guess I messaged you, but kind of like,
Um,
did it ever become a problem at all? Like, did it ever come back up?
no, not really. Like you had talked to me about it and he did his like cowboy Casanova, not like pop punk Casanova, I should say, variation of like dancing his way around it all. And so I kind of just dropped it. Like I left it alone. I was like, we all have our past, like we all have our baggage, whatever. Like we're gonna move forward. It didn't start like, and it wasn't even an issue between he and I. It was like a concern of my mom's because we met in October and he proposed to me by December 16th of 2020. Like we weren't even dating for 3 or 4 months before he like popped the question. And like I was talking to my mom about it. My mom was like, I did it with your dad. Be careful. Like military guys are, you know, they're a different breed. And I was like, okay, yeah, like, yeah, 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 yeah. Like shoving my mom off almost. Um, So like it never became an issue between he and I, but it was definitely a concern of like my mom's.
And then what like tipped you off, I guess, about the next one after you? Like what was it, a slow or was it like immediate in your face?
It smacked me in the face all at once. Like it really did. Um I don't exactly remember like what was shown to me, but I do know one of my friends who had kind of like been stalking his stuff for me messaged me and was like, "Yo, homie, check this out." And I was like, "Oh, what?" Um and so then my friend, oh geez, I met him in like 2016. Like we've known each other for a really long time. He decided to reach out to the girl that came after me, who he met while on deployment, while we were still like married and together, in Germany. Um, and so he reached out to her. They started having like a conversation, and he was obviously like relaying the information that he was getting to me,
Mm-hmm.
and she had sent him a picture of like a ring on her hand that said like Brandon's bitch or something like that. And at that point, I was like, oh, what? What? Excuse me?
Yeah, what the actual fuck? And then was that when you messaged me or was it like days? What made you want to reach out?
Oh no, like I immediately got that information and I was like, uh, I'm gonna call my friend Hunter for the sake of this video. His name's not actually Hunter, but
Yeah.
whatever. So I had sent you a message from like a spam account that I had that had like no posts on it, like no followers, no nothing, that I had used to like stalk people. And you didn't receive the message or you didn't read it, or I don't exactly know how that panned
It
out,
was
but I was
chilling in my requests for a minute.
I was like I was like, yo, Hunter, like I need you to reach out. Like I need you to see if like she's willing to talk. And he was like, well, I'm not just going to come out of the gate and message somebody and be like, yo. So I was like, then ask if she knows Brandon or something. Like, I don't know. Like, you're smart, figure it out. And so, yeah.
I just thought it was so weird too that it was like all in alignment with the other girl, the next one, like that. All the DMs came at the same time. I was just like, what the? I felt so bamboozled, like I said, because it was just like this whole next chapter of my life. I felt like I'd moved past it, and then it was like, psych, we're back,
Yeah.
we're here. So I don't know. It's crazy. But I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to this story. This has been a really good chat. I feel like we've definitely debriefed a lot and I'm excited to include all of this. So thank you again for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Only thing I want to say is if you recognize Brandon from any of the pictures that Mercedes has posted, please do not engage. 10 out of 10 do not recommend.
I'll include some more right here.
Like, we are technically legally still married, which I cannot wait to get this over with. But because of the state we were married in, you have to be like separated for like a year before you can start divorce proceedings. And like at this point, I'm just so over it. And like my boyfriend knows how tired I am of it all. And he's just like, yeah.
Closure's coming. Closure's coming. It'll be here soon.
Yeah,
And we got a friend out of it too.
I did.
So a double win. But
Right.
okay. Cut back to the rest of the vid.
Hopefully, the clip from Hillary and I's discussion hit home and you guys are chilling with it because she's dope and I love their shit. Like, it's good. Good stuff. Good energy. So, I am just, again, in shock that this is something that I've lived through, that I've experienced. Trust issues are deep, and trying to believe that people have, like, genuine intentions is so incredibly hard, and every dating or situationship I've found myself in since has had a lot of like rocky turbulence when it comes to trust and communication, and I just think that I'm still really finding myself in that regard. And this whole situation has really forced me into healing in a deeper way than I already was. So it's pretty sick in that regard, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't like one of the hardest things to sit down and film this right now. I'm so incredibly anxious and scared, but I know this is like the right thing to do, and I hope that if anybody watches this, they learn to just listen to their intuition, trust your gut. If something is telling you that no, this is not good, it's probably not good. So maybe listen to it, and that like life is short. Don't settle for people that don't treat you well, and just keep it moving. Honestly, just keep it fucking moving. Like I said, like just it's too short to just settle and deal. It's too short. This whole experience was like one of the craziest roller coasters, craziest 8 months of my life, and I will never forget it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something, and stay tuned for the next one. Maybe it'll be a story time. We'll see. Bye. My legs are sweaty.